a common example I often give is TurboTax. While it can be a long process and a lot of questions, what I think works in the TurboTax user interface example is that you don't have to think real hard. It just takes you question by question. And with each question you ask, it learns a little bit more so that it knows the right next question to ask. What's your take on that approach versus maybe hammering someone with a million questions on one page, or just taking a different approach than that? Because that's a very simple, like one little thing at a time. It might take me, or it might feel like, oh, it's 187 questions, but at the end of the day, it would have been 187 questions the other way too, right? So how do you compare those two approaches to the user interface?
A lot of it has to do with what task are you trying to accomplish? Because like doing your taxes, not a simple task. So they obviously break it down, right? The whole, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So they break it down and they make it easy for you. Whereas if that's kind of an expectation, going in to do your taxes, you're not going to do it in 5 minutes.
You're kind of prepared already for,
Yeah, it's going to take some time. You got all your papers and you're sitting down and you start going through the process, right? Whereas if you want to get an estimate on something for your house, for instance, maybe you can ask a half a dozen questions to a subcontractor and they could give you a estimate range pretty easily, right? I want to redo my bathroom. Is it a half bath? Is it a full bath? Do you want a tiled shower? Do you just want a dry? Like, you could ask those few questions and then they can give you a relatively accurate estimate based on that, right? Pretty quickly. But the whole tax thing, that's going to take some time. Do you have this form? Yeah, I do. Look on this line, what number's on there? Put it in here. Next. And then, like you said, I'm sure they built in such a way that it's so smart that it knows, like, well, they answered this for this, so chances are this is also going to apply. So we should have.
So I think it just kind of proves the point that depending on the business's process or what we're talking about, you're going to have different UI thoughts about how it should be put together, whether it should be one question at a time, should it be 5 different steps of 3 or 4 questions on each one. You're going to make those decisions based on the business and who the customer is or who the audience is and how detailed it's going to be.
That and where they're at in the process, right? Because if you look at that example, for instance, TurboTax, the first thing is you got to pick which one you think is going to be, and maybe they don't have it this way anymore, but like a lot of it is like tiered pricing things. Like, are you just a single person doing your taxes? Are you married? Are you know what I mean? Like, so once making that decision should be easy for them. But then once they've made that decision and they've purchased the product, then they know that, well, this is going to be a little bit more complicated. So when I go in and start like actually doing this, it's not going to be 2 minutes. It's going to be, it could take me up to an hour, but hopefully they make that process a little less painless.